Welcome to 776 of Salsido Paranormal. I'm your host, James Salsido, and tonight we are continuing our two-part mini-series, I guess you'd call it, of paranormal patterns, if I could say the words right. As always, you can find all episodes of the show, along with links to social media, ways to listen, and ways to support the show over on the website, which is salsidoparanormal.com. That's SALSIDO paranormal.com. Support is never expected, but always appreciated. Also, I forgot to say in the last episode because I'm so distracted. Please check out all the links in the episode description. And for all the friends help the show, including Jen, the Arcane Observer, for her own channel, and then also Michael Strange and Trouble Minds Radio. And that's, of course, the show and the station, the Trouble Minds Radio Network, KUAP, Digital Broadcasting. They've been major supporters of the show, helped so much, and along with many of you that listen out there, and I really appreciate that. So please check out their links whenever you see them in the episode description, along with any other links that I share for other guests who may have their own projects when they appear on shows. So this is sort of a continuation of the previous episode here. I'm just going, as I said earlier, unscripted tonight. I was talking in that last episode about the typical or the known, or I guess you'd call them the original boxes or silos that were made around things like UFOs and aliens, and then ghosts, and then cryptids. They all kind of, for a long time, there didn't seem to be a ton of interaction between the people looking into those things or just the topics in general. But then over time, I've noticed certain things, like I mentioned, the lights, how they seem to be connected to all three different types of phenomenon in different cases. So there's lights, there's electricity, and it's just there seems to be a lot of crossovers here and there between all these things. Sometimes when people see anything in the sky, it's not necessarily a solid object. It's just lights. Or they'll see lights with some kind of a object, but they can't make out the details of it. So it's really amazing, all these things, how they all have similar features in some cases, including the lights, including electricity, how electricity plays into so many things, energy, whether it's you have ghosts or spirits draining batteries or electronic devices of their power. You also get that in some cases with UFOs and or aliens. They seem to be able to shut things down, shut devices down. I've even heard that when it comes to cryptids like Bigfoot or Sasquatch, they can sense or they can see the energy given off by certain types of trail cameras, the infrared, or all these things. And the other thing about infrared that's amazing is sometimes UFOs can only be seen in certain light settings, certain parts of the light spectrum. And then there is also a case, and I always forget where it was or who, the location and the investigators, but where this group was setting up their systems, their cameras and everything in a location, and including a so they had a camera and they had a voice recording device, a sound recorder, and they got this voice saying something like "turn off that light" or "get rid of that turn off that light." Basically, is what they got, implying that someone there did not like that infrared light from that camera. So it really is amazing how there are these little crossovers here and there between all these things. So I don't have a ton more on the crossovers. It depends on the case, it depends on the situation, and there's just so many I just sort of laid out the main categories here in the previous episode and in the start of this one, but there's so many variations on them, hundreds, possibly more, and some that seem to be crossovers, some that don't. Other cases where one place will have multiple kinds of activity going on. In other words, there'll be a hot spot for UFOs, and it'll also be a well-known haunted area. And if it's close enough to any kind of nature, then there'll be reports of creatures there that don't match anything that people are familiar with. So I wanted to go over a couple of my experiences just to give examples of uh, sort of the different types and how I thought of them before and maybe how I think of them now. I thought that might be useful just to give examples of how all this is just so complicated in a lot of ways. So my first experience I ever had was at my aunt and uncle's house. Used to be their house, and I went to visit my one of their kids, one of my cousins. They had two daughters and a son, and I used to go over and visit with the son a lot. Um, and So they had just gotten this new house, then just moved in, and I went there. I used to go over there a lot on the weekends when I was a kid. We were both kids, and just visit and stay one night or sometimes two nights for the weekend in between school, and especially in the summertime when there's nothing going on. And so this first time I went to visit visit them in this new house, my cousin decided that we would camp out in the basement, which was fine by me. We didn't have any knowledge or any uh, sort of ideas of what anything paranormal really was, and so I thought it was amazing. We had this couch bed that was in the basement, and there was all kinds of stuff in the basement that was in various stages of being unpacked and sorted and put away. It was a family of five, so it's a good size amount of stuff to be going through. But they had open pathways to get to everything that you need to get to, and so it wasn't a problem. Uh, and they had these clotheslines that were strung up between the different like support poles, I guess you call them, in the basement near the rafters, and they would hang sheets and other clothes up on these clotheslines to dry off and everything. And I don't know if my cousin did it or if they just had them all set up that way as it was, but there was a couple of these lines. Few of these lines made this little, almost like a partial, like a room, even though we could still see above the clotheslines and out one side. There was one side that wasn't blocked off, and we only had a couple of lights on in the basement. It was one of those. The basement didn't have a light switch for all the lights down there. Each one in the basement had its own uh, string that you had to pull on to turn it on or off. And so we only had the light on by the stairs and then the light on above us, and the rest of the basement was dark. And we were just laying there and talking about kid stuff. I don't even remember now what we were talking about because I was like, I don't know, 12 to 14 years old. My cousin was 8 to 10 years old, around there. And I'm terrible with time, so I apologize for that, not knowing the exact times. But and we were just sitting there talking, uh, and we were looking into the back of the basement behind the stairwell, where the washer and dryer machines were at. And we both happened to look back there one time, and above one of the clotheslines that had a sheet hanging on it, we could see just the head of an older woman above the clothesline. Now, these clotheslines were up near the rafters of the basement, up near the ceiling. So they were at least a good 5.5, maybe 6 feet up in the air. And there was nothing below the clothesline and nothing for anyone to stand on right by there either. And the other thing about that sighting is I could see this woman's facial features clearly, even though I was born legally blind. I'm extremely nearsighted. And but I could still see her hair. She had white hair. Um and it was like sort of like in a ball around her head, basically like sorry, there's Logan making noise in the background. Um, so just like done up in a circle around her head, and I could see she had glasses on, and I could see her eyes, and I vaguely remember them being blue, and she was frowning at us, like glaring at us, like who are you and what are you doing here? Yes, Logan says hello. And I don't know how I could not have physically seen that from that distance. And I had no idea how that was happening. Again, at this point, I was a kid. I had no idea about the powers, the powers of the mind, the idea of telepathy, the idea of just being able to see things through like a sixth sense, so to speak, like the movie. I didn't know any of these things, so I was very confused and so very frightened by this. And yes, exactly, no feet. And my cousin and I were trying to figure it out, and he was freaked out too that I could see it so well because he knew as well that that shouldn't have been happening. We didn't know what to do. Um, I remember we talked about it, and we were worried if we went upstairs and got the rest of the family. First of all, we'd be waking them up at who knows what time of night. um, and both his parents worked at night and weekends a lot of times, and so it would have been a big deal if we would have gone up there, gotten everyone, brought them down. If she would have been gone, we would have been in a lot of trouble. So we didn't do that. Why we didn't think to just go upstairs and sleep in his room, I have no idea. I think we were just too freaked out. So we decided, well, we're not going to look back there into that part of the basement anymore. We're just going to completely not do that. And of course, a couple of times we did slip and look back there, and it was still there for a while. And but then eventually, by not looking into that back corner, we noticed something else in the basement that hadn't been there when we'd gotten down there earlier in the night, when it was still light out. Only when we saw this other thing, at first we thought it was just normal. We thought it was a regular cat because we were seeing this black cat curled up like in a, I think they call it like a loaf position or whatever, like where it's just on its paws and but they're all curled in and just looking at us, and had like orange yellow kind of colored eyes, and that we thought at first, oh, it's just a cat. Wonder if it got in during all the moving and everything, and doors being open and closing and all that, or if it had been there when everyone had moved in and they just hadn't found it and had been hiding somewhere. But we both like cats, and so we decided to go and check it out and see if we could figure out where it had been hiding and how, if it got in somehow. So we got out of the couch bed. Now we were both kids, so getting out of the couch bed, we had to look away for a minute as we were getting off of the bed. And when we looked back at that place where we had seen this cat, it was gone. But it never made any sound. And at this point, I was pretty well aware of everything around me. I was paying attention to everything. Didn't make any sound, even though it was a cement floor and there was small objects that were being unpacked all over the floor. We heard nothing. And there was a little basket with some like empty envelopes or whatever, stationery, right where it had been laying. So it would have been laying on top of an object. And so that freaked us out a little bit. And again, I don't know why we didn't think to just get out of there, but we didn't. We just went back to the bed. And focused on each other for the rest of the night until we fell asleep. Woke up the next day, everything was fine. No cat, no head above the clothesline. And we tried to forget about it. And that was just the first experiences that I had that I remember for sure anyway, with what at the time I thought of as ghosts, as spirits, consciousness from someone that had passed away. And now I still don't know for sure what that was, either of those things were. It could have been that. It could have been a woman that had lived in the house and passed away there. Who knows how long ago, or even just the property itself in general. Could have been a ghost cat. I do have a ghost cat now that stops by once in a while. But also we don't know. We don't know. Could have been other things as well. So that was my first experience. Now, the first thing that had happened that I think some people would categorize as having anything to do with aliens or UFOs or any of those things was something that I did not initially, I didn't know how to categorize it, except in that sort of standard model of that, of it being an alien abduction. But I didn't know, and I still don't know what that was for sure. And I've told this story before, and this will probably take us to the end of the show. I have never had that I'm aware of any encounters with anything in the cryptid or creature category. Of course, now that I've said that, never say never, as they say. But that's kind of the running joke now because I've had just about every other kind of experience. But anyway, this first experience I had possibly to do with aliens and or UFOs, at the very least, possibly aliens. I had it about 15 years ago now. I used to say it was 12, but that was a year or two ago. So I've had to readjust my thinking on that. I keep forgetting that time does go on. Time is weird. I had I had a couch at the time that I slept on in my living room. And so I'd fallen asleep one late night. I don't remember what time it was. And it was definitely late night, though. I usually don't go to bed early at night. And I had fallen asleep. And I came out of it knowing I was still laying down, but I was laying on a solid, flat surface, not on couch cushions. And I tried to move and I could not move. And so I opened my eyes, looked around, and I was not in my apartment. Not in my apartment. The walls were blue, and there were these white shelves, cabinets built into the walls. There was electronics inside these cabinets. Nothing with screens, but more like just electronic devices with lights here and there, and but no actual monitors, no screens. And there were these 2 or 3 blurs moving around me, and this table/bed that I was on. And I couldn't see them clearly. They were just literally person-sized gray blurs. I couldn't even see any arms or legs or a head. No features, just blurs, almost like a shadow figure, but gray, not shadow. And I looked up and I could see either the ceiling was all one light or it was just so bright that I couldn't see any of the physical features of the ceiling. And I was trying to move and I couldn't move. And I heard 2 voices near me, my parents' voices, even though I could tell by the sound of their voices that it wasn't them, because they had no emotion at all. They said, everything's okay. Everything's fine. Don't worry. And of course, I could tell it wasn't them, and I looked in that direction because all I could do was look around. I couldn't move my head much, if at all. And there were just 2 more gray blurs there. And so I'm looking back up because I'm noticing something coming down from the ceiling. And I'm looking around and trying to figure out why I can't move, trying to move. And this thing from the ceiling keeps coming down. And eventually I see it's kind of like a robotic arm extension, or whatever you want to call it. Not like a human-shaped arm, just a robotic frame arm kind of thing. And it came down, and I noticed there was a needle at the end of it. And it kept on coming down, and I kept on trying harder and harder to move. And it eventually came down to where the needle touched my left eye. And that's when everything went black, and I jumped, and I was back in my bed. My couch, which was my bed. And I don't know how long that lasted because I didn't bother looking at the clock, and I don't remember when I went to bed. But it was real. It was not. It wasn't a dream in the regular sense. It was not anything that I could just write off. It felt way too real to be a dream. No, this is, I see you in the chat there, Theo. This is an experience that I actually had. And it was, I could feel the needle. I could feel the bed beneath me, or a table beneath me, whatever it was. And so, yeah, it was definitely, it was something. I hesitate to say it was an alien abduction experience because I didn't see what they were. But it was some kind of an experience, some kind of a abduction experience. Excuse me. And it took years, and it actually took a conversation with friends to realize that this event happened before something else happened that I didn't connect at first until talking with friends. And that was my eyes started changing. I started having increased light sensitivity and eye strain. And this has been slowly getting worse over time. And it happened, this all started after that experience. And I don't know if the eye problems that I'm having now are a result of that experience, or if they're not. I have no way of knowing for sure, but the timing is definitely odd. And it was not a fun experience at all. So, yeah, I've had some experiences. Those are just a couple examples of things. I've seen blue lights in the sky and had telepathic contact with those, which if you go back and listen to previous shows, you can find in my full account of that. And so this is why part of why I'm so interested in talking about these things and researching these things and sharing my experiences with others, just so that people can, people know that you're not alone if you've had an experience as well. And that's one of the most important things to me, most important reasons for doing this show to me. So, but that is all the time we have for this episode. Thank you all for listening, and I will talk to you all next time on Salsido Paranormal. Take care.